solidarity all across the Western world from the Vlaams Belang Party in Belgium. Please welcome Philip de Winter.
Dear friends, as a member of the Belgium and the European Parliament for more than 30 years, it's my job and it's my duty to stand here with all of you today to witness and to fight for what I know is right. It's an honor. It's a great honor for me to be here and to defend Tommy Robinson and the freedom of speech. Today we are all Tommy Robinson. If Tommy is silenced and jailed, so are all of we. So is everybody who is fighting against mass immigration, against Islamization, against multiculturalism, and in favor of freedom of speech. Dear friends, we must break the silence. Tommy Robinson is silenced because he tells the unconcealed truth about the failure of multiculturalism. He's persecuted because he drew attention to Muslim grooming camps and rape squads. He's locked up because he speaks up about the true nature of Islam. By locking up an Islam critical activist such as Tommy behind bars, we bend and we fought for the undemocratic Islam. The judges and politicians who support and defend this decision are collaborating with the enemy. And the enemy, my friends, is Islam. Because the Quran is a military manual to wage war against the West. The Quran is a license to kill. Dear friends, by silencing Tommy Robinson, the political elite behaves like dhimmis. They are already submitting to Islam and imposing Sharia law. We have to stop the Islam colonization of Europe, of our countries of Great Britain, because freedom ends where Islam begins. Dear friends, Tommy Robinson is a modern braveheart, not a right-wing hooligan. He's a civil rights hero who could help prevent the Islamic takeover of the West. And there is only one response to the prosecution, the intimidation and the silencing. Stand, men of the West, and fight, because we will not be silenced, we will not bend, we will never give in. Defend the freedom of speech. Free Tommy Robinson!
Wasn't Philip de Winter great, ladies and gentlemen? We're just waiting on Geert Wilders at the moment. Few logistical problems. How do we feel about Geert Wilders? Janice just said he radicalized me. Alright, while we're waiting for Geert, I want to read you a statement from Louis Alliot. He's the number 2 to Marine Le Pen in the Front National. He wanted to be here today, but he couldn't, but he sent a message, which he's asked me to read out for you. He says, according to whether you are wretched or powerful, the court will judge you as wrong or right. These were the words of Jean de La Fontaine in The Animal Sick of the Plague. Unfortunately, centuries after this fable was written, I am forced to admit that its moral still holds true today. It holds true in our Western societies, societies we believed embraced principles of freedom, but every day we are reminded of the ugly truth. In France, writers are condemned for merely expressing their opinions. In fact, the French Parliament is currently assessing a new law against fake news, which in its very nature reveals a repressive attitude towards freedom. Societies that claim to be inclusive foster new taboos under the veil of multiculturalism. Certain topics are no longer to be addressed and thus become unspoken. Louis continues. Last month, Tommy Robinson was arrested and sentenced to 13 months in prison for having live-streamed the arrival at Leeds Crown Court of the protagonist in a case involving a Pakistani gang accused of having committed crimes of pedophilia. His incarceration is a dishonour to the grand liberal democracy that Britain represents, or perhaps that Great Britain used to represent. No country that is confident and assertive in upholding its values would imprison journalists. It took no more than 5 hours for Tommy to be incarcerated after his arrest. Louis continues. Those who still believe in the freedom of opinion and expression should be appalled and outraged by this incident. Gangs committed repeated abuses in Telford and Rotherham and elsewhere, facing nothing but indifference for decades. Should the acts of rapists be kept silent? Should it be prohibited to believe that such violence stems from a misguided approach to integration and tolerance? In Rotherham, one of the investigators working on the case was required to take a class on cultural diversity after reporting the ethnicity of the rapist. They'll do anything to avoid shattering the lies that form the basis of their multiculturalist project. Finally, people like us who question conformity are essential to sustain Western civilization. It is our ability to think critically that has made us who we are today, or at least who we were. Perhaps one day our children will not even have the right to publicly defend the freedom of another Tommy Robinson. In the heart of London, while some men call for the enforcement of Sharia law and others openly endorse the Islamic State, our judges are busy convicting journalists who condemn these acts. It is time for this to come to an end. It is time for those who defend political correctness to stand up for a worthy cause. Once again, I want to thank Louis Alliot of the Front National, or now called the Rassemblement National, for sending us that. Please send your greatest love to Louis and Marine Le Pen. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the leader of the UK Independence Party. It's
Good afternoon, everybody. Tommy Robinson is a political prisoner. Now, whatever the legal technicalities of his alleged contempt of court, he was imprisoned more for who he is and what he says rather than what he is supposed to have done. It's not necessary to agree with everything he says. It's not necessary to approve of everything he does. But history will judge him as being on the right side of a struggle between good and evil. Tommy Robinson is an incredibly brave man who embarked on a heroic mission. Tommy stood up to expose the worst scandal in the history of England. The widespread, organised paedophile rape of little girls by organised gangs. The scandal was ignored and brushed under the carpet.
We've got loads,
authorities that were supposed to deal with it.
We've got loads.
Governments in this country and across Europe are now the enemies of their own people. They promote policies that are against the interests of their own people. Let me give you 3 quick examples.
Yes, please.
Brexit, number 1.
Thank you.
The people of this country, after a 25-year struggle by UKIP, got the referendum against Project Fear and everything the political, media and international establishment could throw at them. They still voted to leave. And what's happened in the 2 years since? Nothing. We have Theresa the Appeaser, who doesn't want to leave and is doing everything she possibly can to make sure that it doesn't happen. They have betrayed their own people. Number 2, mass uncontrolled immigration. There is nothing wrong with moderate immigration, but what we've seen over the last 40 years, and especially in the last few years, has been a disaster for Britain. Millions of people have been flooded into our country, and now large parts of our country are enclaves of somewhere else. Mass immigration is a disaster. Our own political class have betrayed the British people. Now the third example is Islamisation. A literalist interpretation of the Mohammedan cult is completely alien to everything our country stands for and our traditional way of life. And yet, instead of opposing Islamisation, our government is submitting and surrendering to it. And betraying the British people. Now, Islam means submission. You either submit or you resist. Are you going to submit? Are you going to resist? I kind of thought that's what you were going to say. The political establishment can be defeated.
Yes!
UKIP spent 25 years working for the referendum. UKIP secured the referendum and won the referendum. But that was an historic victory for the British people.
Yes!
It was an historic victory for the British people. But the job is far from finished. We're nowhere nearer leaving the European Union than we were on the 24th of June 2016. Now, it's great to see you all here. I don't know how many thousands of people there are stretching all the way back to Trafalgar Square.
Woo!
You can have 10,000. Thank you. Now, thank you very much. But let me finish off. It's great to all see you here in your thousands. But let me tell you that the politicians can ignore marches, they can ignore demonstrations. The one thing that they cannot ignore is the loss of votes at the ballot box. If you want to have a long-term lasting effect, then you have to organise politically. Yes. And we know in UKIP because we did it and we made it work.
Yes.
Now I know that I'm biased, but I want you to join, support and vote UKIP. Only when you take votes away from the politicians in Westminster, only when you threaten them on their own terms by losing them their jobs will you make any difference. Now, under my leadership, UKIP will do all it can to ensure Tommy Robinson's safety while he's in prison. My UKIP colleague, the peer, Malcolm Lord Pearson, has already written to the Home Secretary saying that if any harm befalls Tommy Robinson while he's in prison, then Lord Pearson will take out a private prosecution against him. We will hold Mr. Javid personally responsible and take him to court. Lord Pearson will also put questions in the House of Lords about Tommy's whereabouts and his safety going forward. But we don't want just to keep Tommy safe in prison. We want Tommy released as soon as possible.